Real people in real estate. We meet all kinds of investors who have amazing different backgrounds and stories, and we're going to share those stories with you. And today we get to meet Dr. Nathan Kapp, who found himself working into not only real estate investment, but also real estate development. And we get to hear his story today. So Nate, that's quite a change from being a veterinarian to getting into real estate. First, let's start off with how you chose your career and the progression from where you started in the vet business to being in real estate today.
So I started out, I wanted to be a dairy farmer, and being from Lancaster County, not raised in a dairy farm family, we didn't have the means to buy a farm and start dairy farming. So I thought, what's second best is to be a veterinarian and help the dairy farmers in the county be more profitable, increase their herd health. And so I went to Penn State, and then I went to the University of Pennsylvania, did my education there, and graduated and became a dairy veterinarian. And that included things from being on the farm, helping with sick cows, all the way to taking cows with overseas on ships to Turkey and to Russia. So we did some of that early on in my career. So that was kind of a unique part of my career. And so we bought our first home in Lancaster County, my wife and I did, and the house next door was a rental property that was owned by somebody else. And I come to find out that one of my farmer tenants or clients owned the house next door, and I said to him one day on a whim, hey, if you ever want to sell that house someday, let me know. And that was that. We went on about our business and talked about his sick cows and whatnot. And so about 6 months later, he came to me and said, hey, my grandma actually owns a house and she's interested in selling it. And would you like to buy it? And that is how we started our real estate journey. Wasn't on our radar at all, but it definitely started a bug that has kind of grown from there. So. Okay,
that's awesome. Yeah. So you went from there into what then?
So we went from the single family house, still doing veterinary medicine. We eventually worked our way from large animal into a small animal practice. So now I practice small animal medicine, doing mostly dogs and cats and healthcare related to a household pet rather than a farm animal. The real estate journey took us down a road of meeting different people. First joined some meetups, met investors there, learned more about cash flow and what the right way is to buy a property and the wrong way to buy a property.
Sure.
And ended up buying a multi-family because we heard that you should go from a single family to a multi-unit. So we bought
always scale up.
Yeah,
right?
always
That's
scale
what
up.
They say.
So we bought a 5-unit. She's a great building in Lancaster City, and we love it. From there, we were at a meetup one night with a developer, and he said, hey, if you have any land that's available for development that you want to partner with, let us know.
Okay.
And it piqued my interest there because my dad and mom had about 8 acres of land over in Lancaster that was in the family for a few years. They were looking to maybe sell it to move, but it was zoned for apartments, and that's kind of how we got to the development stage of our story.
Okay, so from the time that you bought your first rental until today, how long was that journey?
So we bought our first rental in 2017, so it's been about 9 years.
Okay.
And so it's been a gradual climb from 1 to 6 units, and now we have currently have about 58 units total, not including the development that we're working on. So.
Okay, and so you started just small properties yourself, and then did you bring in partners, or how did you make that transition?
Yeah, so after we bought the 5-unit, that led us to the realtor that was selling the 5-unit for the seller. At the closing table, we said to him, hey, if you know of any bigger properties, let us know. And he knew some investors in E-Town that were selling some of their properties due to a divorce in the family.
Sure. Okay.
And so what we did was me and another gentleman who's a realtor in the area partnered up and brought investors in and did our first syndication.
Okay.
And that was a 32-unit apartment building, and we syndicated that, and we're about to refinance it and go full circle and pay our investors their capital back. So it's worked out well for us.
Oh, that's super exciting. How many investors do you have in that deal?
So in E-Town we have 10 investors in that plus my wife and I and then our partners. So
okay.
Yep.
All right. Has anybody else in your family gotten involved, or are you the only one who got the real estate bug?
So my brother has some vacation rentals and some commercial buildings, but it's mostly it's my wife and I. We're the real estate investors in our family.
So what was it when you started buying real estate that you said, this is something that I really like, that's different, obviously, from your vet practice, that made you say, I want to do more of it?
So we liked real estate for the cash flow that it provided no matter what. So we felt like if we put money in the stock market and retired at some point, which veterinarians don't often retire, but if we ever do decide to retire, we would have a finite amount to live off of until who knows how long that would be. So we like the real estate because it provides this cash flow consistently, and we figured by the time we're in our 60s and 70s, most of the properties we purchase today will be paid off. And cash flowing that we can live off of. So that was our biggest excitement about real estate.
Sure. Yeah. So I hear you saying we a lot. So that's you and your wife, right?
Yep.
Was she a reluctant participant, or was she like, I'm totally on board?
So she was on board from the beginning. My wife and I both came from families that were a little, my parents had a business, her parents had a farm. Okay. And so she always watched her parents take risks growing up. I always watched my parents taking a lot of risks through the business growing up. And so it was a pretty easy transition for us to go into real estate. It was a pretty easy sell. The first property we bought was, we were fortunate. The lady that sold it to us gave us a great deal on it. It really kicked off our financial journey in real estate. It gave us a lot of equity right up front. Okay. And so that really helped us get started in buying the next building. Yep. And so, she was on board from the very beginning. And she actually does most of our financial management of the buildings. And even we have some midterm rentals in the 5-unit in the city that she manages. So I kind of start the ball rolling and she kind of keeps it going. So we're a good team like that.
So with the vet business, are you planning to continue that and just run that right along with the real estate? Are you hoping to retire from it? I know you said vets don't often retire.
Yeah, good question. I think if you'd asked me that question a year ago, I'd probably have a different answer. But I think today our goal is to keep the practice going and maybe even invest in a practice or grow a business in the veterinary world. While alongside the real estate. So we would probably do the real estate as a, not a full-time business, but as a challenging thing we're always doing in the background next to the business. And hopefully would use the veterinary business to help, invest in real estate as well.
Sure, yep. Yeah. You know the old adage, get rich slow, right? It's like real estate, if you just keep doing the small steps, just keep adding another acquisition, just stay on it. Like you said, eventually you'll end up with a pile of properties that are paid off and it'll serve you well. So you went from buying existing product, hey, this is great, to, development, right? Yeah. So we have this piece of land and it might be great to build some apartments. So tell me a little bit about how that came about and the beginning of the journey where we got to.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, so mom and dad had this property here that they were running their business out of. And they were getting ready to retire from the business and were thinking about selling the property. And one time, about 2017 or 18, Dad came to me and said, hey, he's thinking about putting storage units on it. And that excited me. Right away, I felt in my heart that there was a legacy component there to our family about, boy, if we had that property and developed it out, it could be a legacy component moving forward in our family. He quickly talked to the township. They shot the idea of storage units down. So it was kind of like, okay, now what do we do with it? And so we started looking and said, well, what's this land capable of being used for? And
beautiful property.
Yeah, we had a lot of open space here. We didn't know at the time, but conditional use approvals allowed for apartments. Okay. And we were like, okay, apartments, great. We didn't know how challenging conditional use approvals could be or would be. Okay. But kind of went in blind, and I guess it's kind of one of those things where I'm glad we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into because it was challenging. Okay. But here we are at the end of the approval process and about ready to get our approvals to build, and it's been a 6-year process. But so that's kind of how it started. We sort of said, yep, we think we can do it, and just took one step at a time and one challenge at a time, and slowly kind of worked our way through everything. Someone told me one time that real estate developments die 7 times before you get them to approval process, and there were many sleepless nights where we thought for sure it was done.
Oh, really?
Township meeting went bad, or a financial hurdle we couldn't overcome with a off-site traffic light or sewer system issue, or all those things. So it was a fun challenging time for us.
Right. So. Those are very afterwards. It's going to die 7 times because it's so true. There's going to be challenges, and there's usually going to be a lot of challenges. But developers succeed because they can navigate through and find solutions, right?
Yeah.
That's just what real estate investors also do. They are people who solve problems and provide solutions, but developers have to do it in greater magnitude and usually also at a much greater cost.
Yes.
So has it cost a lot to
Yeah,
work on these approvals?
So we have quite a bit of money in it out of pocket personally, and we were blessed because about the time we started the development approval process, I had a side business that sort of started to grow as well. And that side business, doing veterinary medicine, we have a mobile clinic, so we go out on the road and check animals at people's homes. And so that really provided us with the capital we needed to work through the development process. So we've really had to sacrifice some things in our personal family life as far as like a bigger house and things. We don't have a lot of cash to sit in around like developers might have. So we really had to work hard out of pocket and pay each month as we went. Attorneys, you're not only paying your attorney, you're paying the township attorneys.
Right.
So it's a lot of cost and risk, and we were blessed to, have it work out. There was many times where we thought it wasn't going to. So.
Yep. Yeah, it definitely, the cash flow along the way is a big deterrent for a lot of people. So it sounds like you made a lot of sacrifices in order to make that happen.
We did, yeah.
But here you've gotten to the point where you're almost there, right?
There, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we're hoping to start the next 6 to 12 months for construction, breaking ground. So we're excited about that. A little nervous, going into the economy. We're not sure what's going on with the economy, but we're looking forward to having some investors come alongside of us to help mitigate risk and get this built for our family. And this project means a lot to us in the sense that we're looking generationally at it, so our kids and our grandkids, hoping that it's something that we can either hand down to them or maybe use as a jumping board to another project someday. So.
Yep, yeah, and it's really about knowing your market dynamics, right? So we're in Lancaster County. It's an area where there's not a lot of supply, and so knowing that you're building a product that'll be in high demand with low competing product is going to be good for you overall, not just now, but many years from now, because it kind of protects your rents, insulates them, so to speak, from competitors driving them down. So I think it's great that you guys have a family project, so to speak, and that you have ground where you have a willing participant. Because I know for a lot of developers, one of the biggest challenges being able to buy that land and having the owners willing to wait for approvals.
Yes.
So at least you have that on your side.
Yes,
right?
Mom and Dad have put their retirement on hold a little bit for us, and so we've been blessed that they were able to work alongside of us, and they've always been so giving to my brother and I growing up, and this was just one more aspect where they really helped us get started in this, and they've been excited about it too. But the one thing we like about this project is that, like you said, the rents are kind of insulated here. We're really trying hard to keep it affordable, so we're trying to stay under the market value of the current new construction in the area, so we're trying to stay lower than those rents are to help with demand.
Yep.
And we have Lancaster Labs up the street here, and they are, we just heard they're expanding, adding 250 new jobs, so we're excited about partnering with them to provide housing. So yeah,
you got built-in demand right there.
Yep,
That's
right
awesome.
Here. We're hoping for it. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I remember you told me that you were actually surprised that you liked the challenge, so to speak.
Yeah.
What were some of the things that surprised you in a good way about the project?
Yeah, well, so I think for us, I think the challenges of the process we really enjoyed the most. And we liked working with the township officials, the supervisors, and the engineers, and the attorneys, and our attorneys and engineers to come up with solutions to some of the problems we encountered along the way with this project. So we really enjoyed that aspect of it. I'm a people person. There were some challenges with some of the residents close by that didn't want the project, and so just navigating that and trying to respect their wishes while getting the project, approved was scary at times, but also really fun for us. Looking back, it was a fun, exciting time with some adrenaline rushes in there too. So
sure, yeah, because you really have to be skilled in different areas because,
Yeah.
like you said, you're working with neighbors who might not like some of these things. You got to work through some of that, but it's also very technical when you're talking about the depths of the sewer line
Yep.
and how are you going to get the proper egress and all those types of details. So would you be able to kind of walk us through and show us what it will look like when you build it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're building 83 units here, so we can walk the site and sort of show you where things are going to be.
Yeah, sounds good. So we're here on the land where you're building this project. So tell us a little bit about that.
They're going to be 1 and 2 bedroom garden style apartments, and then we're going to include 18 garages as extra rental income for tenants that want indoor storage, car storage. And so up here in the field that we're looking at, we'll have 3 of the buildings. Each building will have 24 units in them.
Okay. And is this a 2-story or a 3-story building?
There'll be 3-story walk-up. So 3 stories,
Okay.
no elevators, but walk-up stairways.
Okay.
And then the front building out by the intersection at the front of the property will be an 11-unit building with a leasing office and gymnasium, as well as some apartment spaces. So,
Oh, awesome. So you're going to have a gymnasium as
Yeah.
a kind of amenity, some workout machines,
Yep,
that type
yep.
of stuff?
Yep.
Okay.
And then a
Awesome.
leasing office for the property management company to work with our tenants in as well. So,
Okay.
Yep.
All right, great. So the garages are kind of like over on this side.
Yeah, kind of where we're standing right here. There'll be 3 separate buildings, 6 garages in each building.
Okay. And I'm sure lots of on-site parking, so you probably had to do some grading because I see this site is fairly sloped.
Yeah, so one of the things we didn't know about in our infancy as developers was the site work and what that would look like. The challenging part of this site is that it is a pretty steep slope, as you can tell. We're walking uphill here, and that posed a lot of challenges for not only stormwater, but also retaining walls, which adds cost to the project.
Oh, yeah.
So we have some pretty big retaining walls going in to help sort of even out the grade here.
As well as the possibility of rock as well,
Correct.
right?
Yeah, that
Which
always
is
adds
yet to
some-
be determined.
Yeah, we add some contingency into our pro forma, and that's one thing like we had talked about earlier. When I'm running a pro forma on a 10-unit or a 5-unit apartment building that's already existing, that's a totally different animal than trying to run a pro forma on a new construction project. There were so many soft costs, builder's risk insurance, you know,
The contingency for
contingencies.
hitting rock.
Yeah, exactly.
What if you hit a sinkhole, right?
Yeah.
Like that type of thing.
So many things you have to add into your pro formas that aren't in a normal pro forma for an existing building that's been around for 100 years. So that's been a real challenge and something we're going through right now with our accountant. So one thing we learned about in this property, and we've done since our first project, is we've leaned pretty heavily on property management company, accountants, our attorney to walk us through so we don't make any big mistakes as we're moving through the final parts of the project.
Sure,
So-
because the bigger the numbers, the bigger the possibility
Yeah.
to really make a big whoopsie, right?
Yep,
Because
so
you
we-
said the amount of money you've spent for just the soft cost to get improvements is how much?
So we have about $600,000 into the approval process right now. So
Okay, so no small dollars
Nope,
into
nope.
just getting it to
Just,
where it is right now.
just plans.
this piece of
All
land.
on paper, yep.
Plans on
So,
paper.
yeah, plans
Yeah.
on paper. So,
Right.
so it's been fun and challenging. It's taken about 6 years to do that. Some of that was intentional, so we could pay as we went, you know, rather than having a big chunk of that up front. So it's
Sure.
so that's been sort of intentional. Some of it wasn't intentional with timing of the township and the supervisors, you know, taking their time to answer questions and things. So.
Yep, it definitely takes time to work through it, but if you had time on your side, that definitely makes it
It
easier.
did help, yeah, for sure.
So, aside from the cost for just the site, what were some of the other things that you're going to do or have done to improve this property for the apartments?
So the challenge with this site, besides the slope and the grading on the site and possible rock, the PennDOT required us to put in a traffic light, which was great because there was already one on the site. So we were like, hey, that's a savings of $500,000. There's already one here. But they
So
wanted,
you celebrated.
Yeah, it was great.
And then you learned.
And then we learned that they needed a turning lane into the site. And the turning lane, we thought, okay, we can just restripe the intersection. Well, it wasn't wide enough or long enough for a turning lane into our property. So now we're basically redoing the entire intersection. The other variable the site had was this township has a forced main sewer system, which means that every property has a grinder pump and it has forced main, which is smaller lines. And so what we have to do is put a bigger line in because the lines that are currently in the street aren't big enough for 83 units. And so we are working through that. We have an approved plan right now for one design, and we're probably changing that design to a less expensive design here. So
okay, gotcha.
Yep.
So big surprise, there's a lot of money into just the things underground.
Yes, we being from Lancaster County, everyone always complains about a new development going in, but there is a lot of intentionality and years of money spent working through those plans. So when you see a development go in, it wasn't a quick decision that someone made a year ago. This is a long process and a long plan. So I respect the developers that are building these days because it's not easy.
Yep, and if done thoughtfully
It is.
in a way that serves the community, which this is, it'll be something that's great for the surrounding community for many years to come. So like you said, big company down the road, they're going to hire way more people. Those people are going to need somewhere to live. And if more housing is not built, the cost of housing for everyone goes up when there's more demand. So in order for prices to stay affordable, we need more units to be built. So thank you for helping the affordability crisis, Nate.
We're hoping to keep our rents at an affordable price, which is one thing we talked to the supervisors about was, hey, look, as we are trying to keep these properties affordable, these apartments affordable, how can we do that? The other thing, we do have a lot of ag in our background. So my wife's family are dairy farmers, and so Lancaster County farmland is important to us to preserve. And so in doing this project, we were hoping that we can put 83 units on site here, on a site that's not really worth using for anything else.
Yeah.
And help conserve some farmland in the area that may otherwise be built on. So our goal is to help, reduce development on our farmland in Lancaster County here.
Absolutely, because if this is not really good for anything else, why not use it for housing and leave the good farmland intact?
Yeah, so not to mention we'll have some pretty views here of the farmland at the apartments, so we're hoping that our tenants enjoy the farmland views.
Yeah, because there's a lot of nice farmland around where we're at here too.
Yeah, it's a pretty site.
Yeah. Yeah, the people who are up here are going to have a really nice view.
The third floor tenants up here will have some pretty good views across the hills. So we're excited for that. So.
And it's a fantastic location, not too far outside the city. You got a lot of amenities close by.
And yet you're still in the suburbs, you're not in the city limits, so it's still feels a little bit of country here. So we're excited about it. Should be a good project.
So now that you're almost to the end of this development, you're going to do another project next?
Yep, so we have a restoration of a 1770s farmhouse in the works, so that's our next project.
So your wife's going to get a bigger house?
Yeah, she deserves one after putting up with me for the last 6 years on this project. So.
That's awesome.
Yep.
All right. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed hearing about Nate's story and his progression from knowing nothing about real estate to doing quite a substantial project. And if you're a real estate investor who is looking to grow in a similar fashion and would like assistance throughout the Pennsylvania and Maryland market, please reach out to us. We're always happy to help.